Thanks, Simon, for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to talk today a little bit about innovation management. And I think the best place to start maybe is, what's innovation management?
The way I see it is innovation management is about figuring out which ideas are worth pursuing, basically, because I think that most organizations have plenty of ideas and they have plenty of problems, but I think many struggle with figuring out which problems are actually important to get to, or which problems are important to solve to get to where we want to be. Mm-hmm. And innovation management is basically about figuring out which problems are worth solving and then systematically figuring out how to solve those problems.
So you're relatively new to this sort of whole subject. What kind of insights have you been getting looking at things that you might have looked at before in a different way?
I think the main insight recently has been that most of this is actually about people, how people interact with each other, figuring out how to get people to work together in a way that moves you forward, figuring out why, because when things don't work in an organization, it's usually it's because of the people, right? Mm-hmm. Or you could probably blame the process, but the process was put there by people, right? Yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing, I think, to remember, that you're actually working with humans, even if you sort of break it down into systems and processes and I don't know, checklists and tools and things like that. At the core of it is you're actually working with people.
So you work in an internal task force around innovation. What are the kinds of things that the task force offers to the organization from an innovation perspective?
So I like to view it as we sort of hold the organization's hand through the process. We show them this is how we can systematically take this problem and break it down into its core components, figure out if it's a problem worth solving, and then look for solutions around the problem. Maybe, sort of showing people what you can do to solve the problem, and also teaching them along the way so that people can sort of stand on their own legs.
We've had a conversation before, and I liked when you were talking about the scenario planning stuff and sort of almost setting the North Star for things. And it's kind of an unusual thing. We tout it, but it's an unusual thing for organizations to do it. Mm-hmm. What kind of benefits have you got from having thought about perhaps these things that might happen in the future, and how has it guided the innovation management process for you?
Well, when we did the first scenario report, it was a pretty cool experience, because we actually, when we started, I don't think there was a lot of, what would you say, understanding of the value in the report and actually doing it and thinking. It was more like, oh, this is a fun thought experiment, right? Mm-hmm. But then what happened was, one of the scenarios we had built and written, and it was pretty thorough as well, because we had written about energy crisis and scarcity of resources and stuff like that in the scenario, and it eventually became true. It's kind of where we are right now. It's electricity is
oh my
expensive.
God, it happened. Eh?
It actually happened, and people realized, okay, these tools are useful, and we can learn a lot from using them. And in this case, since we had done the scenario report very thoroughly, we actually had the solutions in the scenario report. We had written, well, it's pretty obvious, I guess, but if you have if energy is expensive, then you want to save energy, of course, and then we could actually be pretty quick in acting and figuring out how can we reduce our energy, how can we perhaps produce our own energy. So it did I think in that particular case, it really did improve our reaction time, among the other benefits of sort of showing that the tools are useful and they have a real purpose.
So as a practitioner of i360, it may not be a fair question to ask you, but why i360?
I would say the 360 approach is really good at actually figuring out what your roadblocks are or what your issues are. from my maybe limited experience, but still from my experience, I can see that when you use the tools to do an assessment and figure out the strengths and weaknesses and problem areas in our organization, and then present those findings using the tools as the basis for the analysis, I find that very often the analysis that you get is very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
When I present it to our management group, you ask the question, do you guys think this is true? And they just say, yeah. They agree wholeheartedly. They're immediately on board with the solutions you're trying to show them. So I think that's, for me, that's been a big value in the.
Speak up going into the meeting, eh?
Yeah.
So looking forward in the innovation going on in your organization, what are you most excited about in terms of what you might be able to accomplish?
I think in our organization we're very focused on efficiency, improving efficiency. We're a producing company, so if we can produce parts faster and deliver faster, we obviously generate more value. But there's only so much you can improve the efficiency before you sort of hit the maximum. But we're sort of using this right now as a way to show people the process and show them what's possible when you apply the system. So what I'm excited for is when we get to the point where we've gone through this loop of iteration a few times and we can start applying it to more finding new products, finding new markets and things like that, to find the real growth opportunities instead of just focusing on efficiency.
It's a journey, right?
Yeah, it's a journey, but I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.